What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pickin Corners. You're probably excited for this episode, considering the fact that there have been no NHL games in a couple of days. We got the All-Star break this weekend, and I know the first thing you're thinking, you got any All-Star picks? You got any All-Star picks? Sure, I'll give you some All-Star picks, but just know that you're an absolute derelict because you thirsty for All-Star game picks, like you know exactly what's going to happen, but maybe there's a reason that you should, because I want to tell you quickly about one of the all-time best stories ever. This is the original sportsbook.com. Before there were any regulations on these Caribbean sports books, there was sportsbook.com, where if you won, it would be in your account just like it is today with all the major sports books. And in 2003, 2004, it was the last year of hockey before the lockout. And this was the height of the clutch and grab era. There were no goals. So the leading goal scorer, I think, had like 37 goals or something like that. Year after year, people had trouble cracking 100 points. You couldn't make a two-line pass. The Devils trapped the entire league, and the game was bogged down and slowed down to an absurd level. How absurd of a level, you ask? How slow could this league have been? The league was so slow that I felt most comfortable taking, I thought it was a sure bet, the NHL All-Star Game under. Scoring was so down and offenses were so bogged down league-wide that it was just accepted defense by almost all the teams. So much to the point, in like the 2003 playoffs, the Ducks were like the 8 seed, the Wild were like the 7 seed, and they just trapped the top seeds, beat them, and you were getting 3 overtime, 4 overtime, 1-0, 2-1 games, all playoffs long. And then it just became this league-wide phenomenon. And then during the lockout, they had to change all the rules. I took the under with one of my good friends who's probably watching in our dorm rooms. And we're sitting there. And after one period, I believe the score was like 1-1 or 2-1. And you know, All-Star game totals are like in the 20s or something like that. It was one of the easiest wins I'll ever get in my life. And it was an All-Star game under that I was supremely confident in. But that was the last chance that you could get at that bet. Many times we say it's the last chance you can get at something, last chance. Like last chance I announced the other day to get the Carolina Hurricanes at plus money to win the division. Everywhere you look around now, mostly even or in the minus. But that NHL All-Star game under, the 2004 game, I believe it was held in Minnesota because the jerseys had some trees on it or something like that. One of the all-time great under bets that I kind of ever got to enjoy throughout the course of my life. And look what path that sent me on. Look how many unders we've smacked since then, including all 3 on Wednesday night, the last night of the NHL. Oh, you think I wasn't going to bring that up? Think I wasn't going to bring up those 3 unders we smacked? You know, the best part about that was if you go back to the previous episode, the last episode of the Best Bets, I opened up explaining the bump it up under. My favorite bet on the slate, I said I would give this one a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, would be the under 6.5 in the Nashville Predators versus LA Kings game. And why do I take them at under 6.5 opposed to the listed 6? I said in the somewhat likely event the game ends up 3-2 in the third period, which many other NHL games typically end up, I want to be able to clear that empty netter. What happened? 3-2 in the third. We cleared that empty netter. And it was 3-2. Who in the third? The Kings. And why did I say don't take the Kings and under 6.5? Why is that? Because if you're going to use all 6 goals, then there's no way to win by 1 and use all 6 of those. So I said combine it with under 7.5 or under 5.5. So that was a great way to end the slate. And I also mentioned, I told you I would report back to you that I'm taking every single player listed at 3.5 for shots on goal. On a potential mail-in night before the All-Star break, I'm betting every player to go under 3.5 shots on goal. And that ended up going 3-2. I believe Brady Tkachuk went over and Philip Forsberg went over. But both of the Kings who are listed at 3.5 And also Dylan Larkin stayed under 3.5, and we nailed that Dylan Larkin point. So I do want to actually mention that if you think you know who's going to win a game, I would prefer the under on shots on goal. I did do a side sniff, one that I didn't really give out on the Patreon, because when I give things out on the Patreon, it's things that I want to put out there semi-confidently. I took the Kings by 2 and then the under on shots on goal for one of those Kings guy. Why? Because my thought is, if you're up and you're a team that, typically when you guys were successful earlier in the season, you were playing great defense, you aren't going to be pushing players forward or anything like that. So if the Kings had a 2-goal lead, then it's not likely that Adrian Kempe needs to be firing shots left and right. So that's something I got to look into a little bit more, but I think there may be some correlation. Some of you people can go look into this between under 3.5 shots on goal and covering puck lines. We'll see. Not 1,000% certain, but it's something that I'll definitely look. I'm always looking at different angles, different things to evaluate whether it's worth taking. And I'll answer some questions in regards to that, because earlier this week on the Patreon, I said, since there's no games this week, let me know some questions that you guys may have, and I'll be able to answer those for you, especially since there are no games, there's no NFL, and this is the episode that I'll be doing that. First, I want to say, when I give out picks sometimes, it's amazing to me, like when the under 3.5 shots on goal. So when I say something like that, the first instinct for many people is, oh, I'm just going to parlay them all together. There's a little screw loose if you think that's what I meant by that. What I meant by, I think more will hit than miss. And if you ask me if they were all going to happen, basically say out loud, you need every single shooter not to have a game where they're shooting on the night. That's extremely unlikely. And there's a line that people use with me. I tell people, when you really like a bet, that's the bet you got to take straight. Like the Dalton Kincaid that I loved, and I would post some of the screenshots. I bet that one straight. The standard, no alt line, the bet that I liked the most, and I did it with Kittle and lost the following week, but the thing that I liked the most, I bet straight. And then people would say, Andy, I just need to hit one of these big parlays, and then I'll have the bankroll. That's one of the biggest lies I've ever heard in my life. I know you think I haven't heard once I hit a big parlay, then I'll be betting things straight. You want to know what happens when you hit the big parlay? You then just put a bigger assortment of parlays for slightly more, hoping to hit a mega big price, and then theoretically you'll bet straight. It's almost like almost like an eating problem. Like, but once, the diet starts on Monday type of thing, just giving yourself an excuse to allow you to keep doing the thing that you're going to do regardless when Monday comes, next week comes, New Year's comes. There's nothing wrong with betting small amounts straight. Let's say you had $10 on the entire night and you put 2 on all those shots on goal props and you went 3 and 2. Mostly even maybe up $1, something like that. Okay, we'll take that same philosophy and keep going. Those dollars will turn into tens, and tens will turn into 15s, and 15s will turn into 20s. And then who knows? You might not have a car, but you'll be on your way to a car. So one thing I'm going to talk about today, I always try to get you guys things that are worth knowing. This is something that is definitely worth knowing. And I don't know the answer to every single piece of it because I don't meticulously scrape every single sports book, but this is maybe where you guys can help each other. You can, in the comments, oh, Andy, what are you doing? Is that you trying to trick us to get comments and get the engagement up? No, I'm actually trying to get you to help each other for the ones that I'll tell you, the ones I know, and you can help each other with the ones that you don't know. There are certain sports books out there that if you put a same game parlay in, they will void your entire bet if there's like a late scratch or a guy doesn't end up playing. No, they don't remove the leg. They void your entire bet. And it's extremely important to know which sports books do this so that you can either A, leave a questionable guy out of your same game parlays, or B, in the case of like ESPN Sportsbook, where if you choose an under 6 and the 6 pushes, from what I understand, it voids your entire. So you got Jesper Bratt over on points, Braden Point over on points, Lightning to win, all those hits, and you hit the over 6, but it was 6 goals exactly. It voids your entire slip. And you have to know this, especially if you're in a state that has multiple sports books. You got to use the ones that are not going to screw you, or if they are going to screw you, you got to play prevent screw job defense. Okay, so they always do that. A push means I lose on ESPN Plus. Every single leg of your same game parlay better end in a 0.5. The same type of bump it up theory. Shots on goals, points, spreads, totals. It better end in a 0.5. You better see a big L or a W next to one of your legs. Because if you don't, and you push, and they ruin an unbelievable bet simply because you didn't know that was company policy, after watching this episode, the blame can solely be put on your shoulders and your shoulders alone. So what I know is that ESPN Bet does that thing I just told you about. So on ESPN Bet, make sure that you have no same game parlays with an even like 06 or, a total that's a flat number. Bet 365, Jack Hughes. Oh, he's going to play in this game. You choose his over on point props. Nailed those other ones. You nailed Stützle. You nail Jesper Bratt. You nail all these guys. But that inactive player who was added to your ticket will nullify the whole thing. On DraftKings, they have a gentleman's policy. Okay, he didn't play. We're just going to remove that leg, as it should be. As it absolutely should be. I'm not talking about the guy got injured on the first shift of the game, like Max Pacioretty. I gave out his shots on goal because he hit in like 4 out of 5. He left a game. I think it was against the Avalanche halfway through. No, we're not going to complain in that situation. But when a guy's inactive and now you just crinkle up my whole ticket, no, I got to know who does that. DraftKings is good on that front. If you push one or there's a voided area, they will just knock it off and make it a lesser variety same game parlay. The other night I did, because on DraftKings, by the way, you can't alter the totals in a same game parlay now. The good news is they've added all those player points, the ones that I like to give. The bad news is you can't alter the lines or totals. On ESPN Bet, for what it's worth, you can alter the lines and totals. So on DraftKings, I had the under 6 in that Kings game, and I think it was the under 3.5 shots for either Moore or Kopitar, and one leg pushed, and I hit the shots on goal. They paid me out as if the shots on goal was a straight bet, as it should be if you're a gentleman. Now, all the other ones, I'm trying to remember what FanDuel was. I do not remember FanDuel's. I think maybe their same game parlay feature allows you actually. I think it defaults you to 0.5 so you know if you win or not. Help each other out with the FanDuel policy and help each other out with the Caesars policy. I'm trying to remember that one. I think if a leg is void on Caesars, it may void it. I just can't remember every single one. You guys should help each other out in the comments. I will say this about Caesars. My advice to you is if you bet and it's a simple point prop bet, not like a crazy immaculate one. For example, New York Islanders to win with Brock Nelson to register a point. My advice is to do that on Caesars. There's a reason why. I'm not going to tell you. Some of the people on the there's a reason why that I think. Go ahead, call me a shill for Caesars, but go ahead. No, actually, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then there are going to be certain bets me and the Patreon people win that you don't because of something. But my advice is if you have simple point prop, not shots on goal, point props or assists specifically, if you bet anything point assist related, my advice is doing it on Caesars, and I'm going to leave it at that. You don't want to trust me? Fine. Do whatever you want. Go to your guy cooking pizzas and text him your bets, whatever the hell it is that you do. Now let me go on to some requests from the Patreon folk. The first one I'm going to start with, I was asked to look at FanDuel Futures. I took an early look at that. Their FanDuel monthly futures where you have to guess who's going to score the most over the course of a month or something like this. This I do not like. This, the only one, all goal scoring things. Why do you guys never see me give out goal scores in same game parlays or something like that? It's almost like the same reason I almost never give out touchdowns. You can have an unbelievable game. You could be one of the best scorers in the league. You can have 50 goals like Rantanen and have a 10 games goalless drought. So I stay away from everything goal scoring related. Maybe if you scroll up a little bit, that we will see, this is team to record most points during the month of February. What about teams who play the most games? See, there's an additional element of research that would have to go into this. So I'm actually not going to do that, but I'm fairly certain it's not the New Jersey Devils in terms of what I think of them. Next up, we're going to go to some other questions. If we can pull up question number 1. How do you get past the mindset of taking smaller, more likely plays opposed to throwing all your picks together in a parlay? I have a pretty simple way of doing that. Go to something called Bet History, and then look how many times that's worked out for you. Everybody always says, it's always one leg. How many times do you want to lose one leg? You only got 2 in this world. You keep losing one, it's going to put you in a bad state going forward. Look at your previous bets. Because people have this, no, I don't want to look. I know how that one went, but I'm just going to look forward to the next one because the next one, everything's going to go good once we go forward from here. Look at it this way. Do you want a good bet ruined by one leg? I can't think of something more infuriating. I always told people I have no problem with the Islanders straight up not making the playoffs for 8 straight years. There's no pain. There's no pain in that. Do you want to know what there's endless pain in? That Game 7 1-0 loss against Tampa Bay on a short-handed goal. I'm not even close to over. I think I need 9 more years starting today to slightly get over that. Close losses ruin your life. You ask me, somebody said, where do you get your hair cut? How do you have your hair? What do you do with your hair? I don't allow myself to have bets that are going to make me hurt for decades. That's how. That's the first and last rule. So that's how I avoid making crazy ones. It doesn't mean, like the other night with those unders, I put one of those under totals, like the under 7 in the Ottawa game. I did under 7 with the Dylan Larkin shots. I did under 7 with the Brady Tkachuk. There can be mini assortments in there, and all those are plus money payouts. I just don't understand how like a plus 190, a plus 200, that's unbelievable. That's still not enough. You know who you guys are? You're the people who play the Mega Millions only when it's at like 350 million. Because on a random Tuesday in July, someone goes, oh, you play the Mega Millions? You'd go, well, what's it at? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know 42 million wasn't enough for you, sir. No, you'll only play it when it's 275. It seems like that's the parlay philosophy. Not enough? Plus 210? Not enough to take you to Applebee's on a Friday night? No. You want the Bellagio. You want the suite. You want to be fanned by the Swedish girls in the fjords. Yep, that's you. And even you girls out there. You want to be fanned by the male models in the fjords. Yeah, they hand you bottles of water, fresh water, and everything. So that's one thing that I avoid. Number 2, what are some streaks and trends you look at, and what websites are best for analyzing the data? Okay, I'll just keep reading. It could be player props or something like a team has lost first period at home, 8 of the last 10. There are some good angles that are a little more under the radar, and I'm not really sure how to find them other than looking at individual game and making my own spreadsheet which I'm not going to do. And I love that. I love you guys. You've heard me say that many times. Like, yeah, and I'm sure if I went back and looked at all the first periods, I'm 1,000% not doing that. But so I do appreciate the honesty, Jay. So what I will say is, as far as the official metric avenues that will show you their take on analytics, you know, I've put that deserve to win a meter, which uses its own set of calculations. So Money Puck is one. Daily Faceoff will give you the most up-to-date line combinations. Somewhat. There are little asterisks to be had along the way. It's one of the things that I talk to Josh about when I bring on. So Money Puck, Daily Faceoff, Natural Stat Trick, if you really want to get into the bunkers and input the exact situations you're looking for. So those are a couple of the main ones. There are others. Once again, commenters, you can help each other out and look and see the different places you can go. And, you know, I don't know a damn person from any of these companies. This is not me gassing up anyone. This is what I use when I'm looking at things. But more importantly, when it comes to me, without sounding like Rex Ryan, I think there's a bigger human element involved. No website's going to show you the mail it in that Carlo told you about. Nobody is going to gauge, you know, the game-to-game inner workings of a team. So, like the way you hear me talk about, defensive philosophy flows from game to game. You know, it's hard to really quantify that. It's not just a feel thing. You can go find some metrics, but like that thought when a goalie has a shutout, that the players are aware that he's riding a shutout streak. So are they more likely, less likely to pinch, make something a 4-on-3 when they're going to leave themselves vulnerable on the back end? These are Andy theories, Andy only theories that you're not going to hear espoused anywhere. And I have a whole multitude of them. And that's the beautiful thing about what it's like Major League Baseball hitters. They say nowadays everybody has the exact same form. It's not as good as when you have Bonds corking that bat and Sheffield corking and Dave Justice with the big old leg kick, or Manny Ramirez or David Ortiz style where you just, lean the hell back and blast one. It adds your own flavor and makes it that much more enjoyable. If you go strictly by analytics, that's like letting the gas station guy print out your Mega Millions tickets. You want to know that it had some of your numbers. So those are some of the sites that I like. And I think there was a follow-up question to piggybacking off Jay sorta. What site can I find the team that the public is betting and what has the most? All right, so this one, I kind of figured out in a backwards fashion through the NFL because I was determined to figure out when they show those charts, percentage of money bet versus, how much is betting on each side. I always wanted to know, is this factoring in line changes? Because if it starts at -3 and then it ends up at -5.5, isn't it disingenuous to show me the stats? Because many of those people who bet on them -3 wouldn't have bet on them -5.5. So how can you just lump that all in together? And I was told that it is an aggregation. Somebody from 2 separate sports books told me that it is an aggregation. But for the most part, I've also reached out to one of these websites and I say, can you really get into detail about how these numbers are being accumulated? And I'll paraphrase what he said. I wouldn't look too deeply into it, meaning don't spend as much time looking at this many people bet on this and that many people bet on that, because there are so many other factors. What if some guy, some oil tycoon, he puts $100 million? Do you know how many Dans that offsets? If some guy just put look at this Super Bowl right now. They say every single person watching this video has their money on Chiefs +2.5 or whatever, +2. Yet the line went down to like 1 or something. People continue to put money on the Chiefs, and now it's back up to 2. What caused that? You know what it is. other factors. And I'm not talking about, oh, it's the Taylor Swift. Oh. No, I'm talking about things that are not going to show up on those charts. The oil tycoons. So yeah, you can call that the oil tycoon theory. What do we got next? Your rules on same game spreads and overs money line, the bump it up situations. You know this. Dan doesn't fully grasp it. Thanks. So I know I talk about this all the time. I'll run the hurry up offense on this once again. If you're a combiner of money lines and totals, if you take the money line, that's not the puck line, just a team to win by one, you click on the Islanders minus 115. Then if you're going to combine them and take the under, it has to be under 7.5 or under 5.5, because your goal, if you're combining the two, is to be able to use every single goal that you've taken in that total. If you choose 6.5, the New York Islanders cannot win by one and use all 6 goals. So you either take the under 5.5 where they can win by 3-2, or you take the under 7.5 where they can win by 4-3. Now, if it's the over and you like the Islanders and the over, you're going to take the Islanders and over 4.5 because 3-2 will clear that 4.5, or Islanders and over 6.5 because if it's 3-3, 4-3 can clear it. Now, the flip side of that is if you want to go puck lines, right? Minus 1.5. I don't think you got to be a mathematician to know. If you want to bet the under, it has to be minus 1.5, under 6.5, because 4-2 can use all 6 goals, or under 8.5 because 5-3 can use all 8 goals. If you want to take the over in a puck line situation, it's minus 1.5 over 5.5 because 4-2 will clear that, or over 7.5 because 5-3 can clear that. So that's the puck line, money line combined. I need to do the pluses too. So if you're plus 1.5, if you're going to lose by 1 and you're going to go over, it's the over 6.5. 4-3 will get you there. If you're going to take plus 1.5 and the under, you're looking at 7.5 or 5.5, 3-2 or 4-3. I think we're good now. I think we got all that. So that is the money line, puck line. Just rewatch this. Rewatch this segment right here. I'll put one of the timestamps. I just need to remember the day. What is today? The 2nd, February 2nd, Pickin corners. Go to the timestamp that says money lines and totals. So, by the way, this is what I do for the Patreon members. I will field their questions and do the best that I can to answer them. You know, one of the many things that I do. Obviously, that's where I give out weekend picks. That's where any additional stuff, like this is where our continuous threads on a nightly basis are going. And most importantly, that's where you can be a minority owner of this show, just like those Green Bay Packers people, where they go home at night feeling like they own a star in the sky until they actually have to prove it and they have nothing of value. But it is greatly appreciated. I've had a great last month. I've tripled my subscribers. I have the #1 daily NHL betting show. Yeah, more than ESPN stuff, more than NBC stuff. Every single network, the stuff they put on YouTube does not garner the attention. But #1 every single day. If you are a Westworld searcher and you search NHL bets, you will find my videos. Wait, what's a Westworld searcher? You want to know what a Westworld searcher is? It's any sports bettor whose YouTube searches are so generic that one might believe they were conducted by a robot from Westworld. These searches include terms such as NHL bets or hockey bets tonight. The search terms are so generic that if you brought them to a guy like me and I go, all right, well, let me see what this guy searched. I'm like, that is AI created a human, be a fake Westworld person. And that person's sole goal was to make NHL bets. And they programmed into him, search NHL bets tonight. So if you're a Westworld searcher and you found my videos, I'm extremely glad you have. Because it's because of a lot of the people here. You guys, continue to like my videos, comment on the videos, engage with the videos. That's what shows it to more people. Because I will say this. I used to show up in the top of Google searches every day when I was at Odd Shopper. They've removed those. So I've been cut from Google searches outside of YouTube. But inside of YouTube, where it's more merit-based and they want people to continue to watch, they show them the things that they're most likely to continue to watch. You want to know what that is? That's my assortment of shows, where I try to combine entertainment, give you some analysis, and most importantly for you guys, but not for me, try to give you some winning sniffs, which we've done in an astronomical variety. I told you after the first bad quarter, it's like that fake Netflix where they got no good shows coming on. Then we had Stranger Things. We had every single popular show that Netflix was ever known for these last 2 quarters. And, you know, we're still in the third quarter. Still got a good chunk of it left. But the second quarter was just a massive stacking of money. And I'm going to look to continue that. And obviously, anybody who was around for the original playoff run knows what can happen come playoff time. No guarantees, but I like my chances going forward. So as far as this weekend goes, it probably would be somewhat fun to look at these all-star skills competition bets tonight. So if we can open up DraftKings, there is one that I kind of like. If I had to take a slap at it, and it should be, once we pull up DraftKings, it should be, I think it will have its own column. And I'm going to talk about this because if I listed him at a price, it would 100% be in the minuses. We know essentially Connor McDavid is the fastest player in the league. Now, Matt Barzal beat him head to head, clocked a faster time than him for 2 straight years. But there wasn't $1 million potentially on the line. And if you're giving me the fastest skater, so the NHL, it should be, you're going to have to probably go out to the top left. And then if you go, oh, never mind, that's no good. Interesting. So, you know what? Hockey. There you go. Wait a minute. So they took the skills competition here. NHL. Click that bottom thing. Damn it. Go back. Go down. Go down. And if you go to NHL odds, let's see if that brings us. Wow. Season specials. Do you see next to game lines? No. Those are interesting. Anyway, go to the right. You know what? Screw this. I can tell you what it is. So anyway, Connor McDavid to win the fastest skater at like plus 140 with him actually being motivated. You know, a guy could slip. I do agree that Quinn Hughes is like, here we go. No, that's to win the whole thing, which I would put it between him and McKinnon. Because, you know, when you're going for that MVP trophy, it probably helps to win the skills competition. Fastest skater winner. There you go. Finally. Plus 120 on here. I have seen it at plus 140. But if you scroll down, and Makar can fly, obviously. Quinn Hughes, plus, I've seen him as high as plus 1,100. But the thing about the fastest skater, it's not about who's the fastest. If there was an endless track of ice, pretty sure McDavid would smoke everybody. Nobody knows how to deal with the corners. Nobody can cross over and continue to accelerate. And almost every single time, people borderline almost wipe out on the board. They have to use every last inch of ice so that they don't hit the boards on their crossovers. And that's where all these are won. Like Gartner held the record for like 15, 20 years. And I always used to joke when Ranger fans used to be like, yeah, you know, we have the and I would just text them a corner of an ice hockey rink because that's the only. Mike Gartner was never close to the fastest player during that era. Pavel Bure would have smoked Mike Gartner on a straightaway. Anyway, I do kind of like that one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can look at for you guys. Go to the hardest shot winner because the guys that I saw, I mean, when you think about guys like Weber who blasted it like 105, man, forwards don't typically blast them low and hard like defensemen. And it's usually those defensemen that are a little bit thicker. Guys like Weber and Ally Afraidy. I remember Adrian Aucoin on the Islanders. He hit 102.2. How about we go back to DraftKings and look at those season-long thingamajigs? Okay. No, this one we're on is pretty cool. The player specials. Right there. So Artemi Panarin to record 110 points. Crosby to score 50 goals. Austin Matthews each record 140 points. McKinnon to record 1 point on no. Oh, I hate all these. I mean, obviously it makes sense. They made a whole section to say, what can we kind of sucker people into taking? That they should really call that player sucker specials. What's right next to that? Streaks. Oh. Will the Oilers beat the record? I will say this about that Oilers game. They come out of the break and play the Vegas Golden Knights. They're going for the all-time win streak. But then to just stop playing, have an all-star break, pick back up again, and play the team who eliminated you from the playoffs in their building with Aiden Hill, who's playing his absolute... I mean, he was playing incredible. And normally I'd say, yeah, but give a goalie this much time off and you can really throw that out the window. Except for the fact that Hill missed weeks and weeks and weeks, came back, played the Islanders, looked unbelievable, played the Rangers, looked unbelievable. So I believe he will be able to play like that. I mean, if the Oilers were playing some cans, they've been handling them very well. But I wouldn't mess around with this Oilers bet simply because you have that Vegas game staring at them. And that's just a scary one to try to get through. If they got through that, then we'll see. How about those season-long, the ones that you just had up a minute or two ago? Look at that. So my opening video, the first Pickin Corners video, I kind of regrettably took the Edmonton Oilers. I would never give a Stanley Cup pick before getting to see the teams play. But I said, if you put a gun to my head, Edmonton had all the makings of one of those motivated Avalanche from a couple of years ago teams where they were really good. They were close. They lost to Vegas just like the Avalanche did. They showed up to camp early. It seemed like they were hell-bent on righting the wrongs of their previous two playoff runs and getting Connor McDavid to a Stanley Cup and potentially to win a Stanley Cup. And after they traded for Ekholm, they put a little bit more of a little bit more focus on the defensive side of things. We've seen that once again since they fired their coach. I mean, nothing crazy, but it's like almost like they're begging to be taken out of the ruckus category. It's interesting to see that they have reemerged as Stanley Cup favorites. Conference winner. Wow, they lumped. You guys know who I would pick on that side of things. You forget that the Bruins, Panthers, Leafs, they all are on the same side of the bracket. So whatever team you like out of those three is most likely, like if you love the Panthers, well, they're going to have to beat the Leafs again and beat the Bruins again. You like the Bruins, they're going to have to go beat the Panthers, they're going to have to go beat the Leafs, and then they're going to have to beat Carolina. You have to know the paths of these teams. And if you give me that, just like I told you during the season, I would take Carolina. And always remember, if you take futures, it's easy to hedge once you get to that final round. If you took Carolina at plus 500, this bet should be called, who do you think makes it to the conference final so you can guarantee yourself money? And give me the team that has to play, the Rangers and whoever the hell else. They're going to play one wild card team and the Rangers. And in my opinion, they'll have home ice against the Rangers. And I know you can point to that series a couple years back. But I like the Carolina Hurricanes' chances there. And remember, if they make it to the conference final, I'm already correct because money will be guaranteed to be made. On the other side, this is a disaster. Yeah, you could say the Oilers are favorites. Well, guess what they currently have to do? Go on the road, win. I'm not taking any team that has to go win 4 road rounds. Like Edmonton, great round 1, beat the Kings. How'd round 2 go? They had to play, Vegas, with Vegas having home ice advantage. You got to look for those roads. I saw somebody say, I got to take Dallas at this value or something like that. Look at all the sportsbooks aren't stupid. They know Dallas is that good. What's their current road? Oh, we have to start on the road at Colorado. Oh, we get through them. Then we got to play Winnipeg on the road. You're talking about multiple road rounds once again. That's a devastating path to try to ask for. At least if you take, I don't think the Jets are going to win the Cup. I don't think the Canucks are winning the Cup. It's rare you go from kind of some fringe contender to you're beating people multiple rounds and end up winning. You can get to the end. You've seen that a lot. You've seen teams go to but it's rare that you go from fringe to winning the whole thing. And if you want to say Vegas missed the playoffs, that was because they made a trade, didn't have Eichel. You're talking about a team that made it to the Stanley Cup final, conference final. They were right there every single year. So I don't think the Jets and Canucks are going to win the Cup. But to know that they have meaningful potential Game 7s on their home ice is a big advantage. So you'd need the Stars to win every single round in a potential Game 7 on the road. And that's just not a fantastic proposition, if you ask me. The best value there to me, it's clearly the Golden Knights. They have the psychological advantage of knowing that they've beaten some of these teams already. They know, they've beaten the Stars, they've beaten the Oilers, and they're going to be getting William Karlsson back. They're going to be getting Shea Theodore back. They're going to be getting Jack Eichel back. You had this exact chance last year. Everybody laughed. They ended up being the 1 seed in the West and still were like the 4th favorite in the West. So if people want to sleep on them again, especially with Adin Hill playing that way, they're a good value. And if the Kings get their act together, just plus 1,100 is a pretty crazy price. But then again, they would have to go on the road a bunch of times against tough teams. It's one thing if you're going on the road. I'm sorry. This is not because I'm an Islander. Let me think of a different team then. No, I'm sorry, but the Rangers are the most all right, Devils last year. So if you played the Devils in the second round and they were on the road, they were a vulnerable team. They could have been upset. So that will be conference. And I guess maybe check the division. The Panthers can absolutely make a push at that. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are way too flimsy to go on. They play with minimal passion. Like you watch their games, they skill their way. They try to skill their way through everything, and it's no coincidence that their style never works out for a sustained period in the playoffs. And now we go to my division, the one that I gave plus 800 for Carolina. On this site, they're minus 105, as they should be. They should be the favorites to win the division from here on out. Look at their record the last 2 months. Look at the Rangers' record the last 2 months. And going forward, there's just no competition. That Carolina plus money, if you can get it, is as good of a bet as I can give the rest of the year. If I lose, I'm going to have to look you in the eye and say I am a big piece of, as The Rock called Stone Cold Steve Austin, trailer trash. Now let's see to make the playoffs one final thing. That was right there. Flyers, look at that. Flyers currently sitting comfortably in a playoff position. I think the better bet there is plus 140 to make it. Islanders, they just fired their coach. A lot of teams, every team who's fired their coach, other than the Senators, Blues are currently in a playoff spot, I think. I know it's a wild card. You saw what Edmonton happened after they fired their coach. Islanders were in the same exact position last year, and people just thought they weren't going to make it. And they just scraped together victories a few weeks ago. Like not a long time ago, a few weeks ago, they were number 2 in the Metro. That Metro is so weak. They can God, I don't want to sound like some homer. It's the Metro's bad. It's very, very, very bad from, Major League. That's what happens when you steal Joe Boo's rum, but plus 250 is just a good price. No, we're not. No. We're only going to talk about ones that are worth, in the ballpark. I was hoping that they would love the Devils more than they do. I knew there was a chance for this. They've reintegrated themselves firmly into the Scam 5, and they will no longer, they no longer have the respect from the league because they don't play defense, don't have goaltending, and that's not going to change when Jack Hughes comes back. They do like Detroit, and I could see why there would be some optimism. Stevie Bong Rips, he got them all excited. That can go either way. Last year, they were right here too. Everybody said these same things. They do have a slightly different cast this year. Couple new guys, DeBrincat, Kane out there. Maybe they can make it happen. But it's no coincidence all these teams who have found themselves shoot up the standings have paid attention to defense more and keeping pucks out of their net. And that's what's allowed them to get there. Both them, Edmonton, Carolina, you name it. Blues, a potentially weak wild card race in the West could allow them to weasel that. Oh, man. Oh, God. The Cockroaches, that's a decent bet. They never give you an easy one. All they got to do is sneak that wild card. What kind of world do we live in where we support the Roaches? I guess that's where we're living in now. It's a good value. That is a good value. Oh, the lowly Capitals. Remember when they were... But, Andy, they're in the playoff race. Look how many they win all the time. Well, then, you like them? Bet them to make the playoffs. 100 will get you 500. Come on, do it. Oh, you don't want to do it? Why not? It's the Washington Capitals. They got all this life, all that youth injected into that roster. Just do it. It's right there. You can just click on it and then go, oh, look at this. I got a free 500. You know why. You've always known why. And if you don't, there's a reason you're using the bus tomorrow. And I think that's all we got here for you on this episode of Pickin' Corners. We'll be back with the standard variety of best bets on a Monday. Look forward to it. For all you all-star bettors, good luck to you. But obviously, better luck to me. You make sure you are subscribed here to my YouTube channel. I'm very happy to have you guys. So glad the few thousand of you who subscribed this last month, tend to be sticking around, which is nice to see. I look forward toward the entire end of the season, and hopefully we go on another great run. Hopefully we just continue what we've been doing recently. But if you're a prick, you can continue to root against me. I mean, I guess that's what makes it worthwhile. If everyone's flowing in the same way, it doesn't make it that much more enjoyable. And it's not just for you, but for Ms. Lippy too. Me, I'm like one of those guys. I'm a Tom Wilson character. I'm scoring when I'm fighting and doing others. I'm taking penalties. I'm hitting you behind the net. And that's what I do to the Orcs. When I'm blasting Orcs in the comments, don't you notice it always coincides with winning bets? Because it gets me flowing. It gets me caring. They wake me up. And then I start to deliver. So, anytime, Andy, how can you punch down? There's no such thing as punching down on an orc. I will be back with you guys on Monday. I'll talk to you then. If you, want to subscribe a little bit more than the standard amount, you know what you can do? You can do this thing. I really haven't looked into it. You can click a button on here somewhere and issue like a $5 thank you. And I think it just gets shuffled over to me somehow. I don't know. I'm not one of these like live streamers like, hey, click the I don't even know what it's called. It's like a super thank you. If you want, throw me a super thank you. If not, I'll see you on Monday. And then maybe by the end of that day, you'll be saying super thank you. Take it easy.